Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Brian Horror, not horror, so don't get it twisted, boo. Hello everybody, hello. Hi and welcome to a new episode of Where Are They Wednesdays, where I talk about a missing person case. I want to thank everybody once again for the Daniel Gallardo case. We're almost at 100 views. Please go watch that one if you haven't yet. You can go ahead and click on it. It's like my second to last video from today's or this one's. Thank you so much, I really appreciate it. By the way guys, if you guys want me to do a case or like a missing person case on somebody, please let me know down below in the comment sections. Don't be scared to comment because I don't get a lot of comments, but like I said, if you guys want me to do one, I will gladly do my research and do that missing person case for you guys. So I'm gonna go ahead and first of all I get my LaCroix because this is my favorite drink. By the way, I love drinking these so much, and this week's I'm drinking cerise limon. I don't know what that means. All I see is like a little cherry and a lime, so I'm gonna guess that's what it is. So let's do a little ASMR. Ooh. These are so freaking good. LaCroix, if you want to sponsor me, go ahead and do that right now. Today's case is going to be a really interesting one. It's, how can I explain it? It's an old case, but at the same time, it's not that old. If that makes any sense, but you're going to understand once I start talking about this. If you have not yet, go ahead and subscribe to my channel, you guys. Once again, let's get to 100 subscribers. I would really appreciate that from the bottom of my heart. And whenever I do hit 100 subscribers, I'm going to film like a super special video just for you guys. I appreciate you guys so much for sending me any love, anybody that has commented. And yes, so I'm going to go ahead and get started right now. So today's case, we are going to be talking about the disappearance of Jaliek Rainwalker. So Jaliek was only 12 years old at the time that he went missing. Unfortunately, Jaliek has been missing since November 1st of 2007. So a little bit of Jaliek's past, I am gonna talk about it because it's really important to this case. He did have a really hard past. Unfortunately, when he was born, he was addicted to drugs because of his mother. And unfortunately, he did not live with his biological mother. He did go into the foster care system at a really young age. So he did have a really hard childhood. He was a really troubled kid emotionally, and he did suffer from special needs. He spent many years of his childhood jumping from foster home to foster home, which is really sad because a lot of the families could not support Jaliek for his condition. Before I talk about the last family that Jaliek ever stayed with, he had stayed with a previous family who was actually almost in the process of adopting him, but unfortunately one day he had a severe case of an outburst and he did hurt one of the family's daughters. So unfortunately they did not want to proceed with the adoption, and in 2002 I believe Jocelyn McDonald and Stephen Kerr adopted Jaliek into their family. A little background on this family: they were not a traditional family, so they were basically like an eco-friendly family from what I read on the articles and on his case that I studied. So they did not have like electricity. They did use a generator in order to have some sort of electricity in their house. They did not have bathrooms in their house because they actually lived in a 2-bedroom cabin. They had an outhouse. And then another thing is that they didn't even have running water. So if I'm painting the picture for you guys right now, of course he was not living in the proper environment that he needed in order to succeed, in order to be a happy child, in order to get past his dark past. And because of that, he did have many outbursts in his new home with his new family. And eventually one day it just kept getting worse and worse to the point where he started threatening the other kids, because they did live with 2 of their biological kids and another special needs kids, and then Jaliek himself, who was also special needs. So unfortunately, Jocelyn and Steven couldn't take it anymore, and they eventually did call a crisis line to try to see if they could reverse the adoption process, since they had already adopted him, and of course they denied it because you can't do that. And since the family couldn't do that, they were told that the only option that they did have was to have a, I believe it's called a respite care. He could get provided respite care, and if you do not know what that means, that's basically like somebody that comes to their house and take care of him. So of course this was their only option, and eventually one day they did decide to have like a little break from Jaliek, so they did send him to his previous family, where he was actually seen to be very happy. He only stayed there for like a couple of days. I forgot what exact days they were, but it was almost like a week. Basically like the end of October and the beginning of November, he was gonna be going back to his family with Steven and Jocelyn. And this is where things in the case kind of get a little crazy or a little suspicious in my opinion, and I am going to be giving my opinions and like my feedback from what I think. But eventually, of course, he is handed back to his family, but Jocelyn and the kids did not want Steven to go back to the house because they believed that he was just too dangerous for him to stay with them, since he had been threatening. He was getting very violent. You know, it's unfortunate that they couldn't care for him, and it seems like they almost didn't want to care for him, but it's because he had his conditions. And what do you expect when you put a child in a crowded environment, or where he does not have room to run around, you know, where he's like overwhelmed by all the people in the house. You know, there's no electricity, there's no running water. You get me? Like, it was just not the right environment for him. So that night, Jaliek and Steven did go out. I believe they did go out to dinner. Excuse me. They did go out to dinner like around 8 o'clock, and there was a witness, which was like waitresses and the people that were working at the restaurant that night. They did see Jaliek and Steven eating there, and after they had eaten, they actually went back to the house where they were going to spend the rest of the night. From what Steven stated, Jaliek, as soon as he got home, basically almost fell asleep right away. So around 7:30 a.m. that morning, Steven does wake up and to turn around to check on Steven, which he thinks is sleeping right next to him, but ends up later finding out that was not. He had apparently accumulated like blankets and pillows to make it seem almost like if, you know, when you're trying to sneak out and you try to like make it seem like you're sleeping in your bed, if you ever did that when you were younger. He eventually goes to check, and it does see that Jaliek is not there. So he does get up and looks all over the house from where he stays, and this is where things get really sketchy in my opinion, even more, and upsets me. He had apparently stated to the police that he had searched the house and he couldn't find his duffel bag, his belongings, and his one teddy bear that he liked carrying, or like stuffed animal that he carried with him all the time. And instead of immediately, as a concerned parent, calling 911 and reporting his child missing, he actually decides to go take a shower and goes to, I think, town to return a movie, and then comes back. An hour later, he reports Jaliek missing. But when police did show up to the scene and did search the house, they ended up finding his duffel bags and his belongings in the garage. This case really blew up immediately, and police did search Jaliek's father's home, and they did search Jocelyn and Steven's home. Police thought this was very suspicious, so they immediately thought that there was foul play involved because of not only his special needs, but also because he was only 12 years old. A lot of things were really off about this case, especially in my opinion. Steven's behavior, his story, and his, was just very off in my opinion. If you go and look at interviews, to me, in my opinion, it's just very off. They did polygraph Jocelyn, Steven's mother, and Steven actually declined to be polygraphed. And eventually actually even gets a lawyer, and from that day that he got a lawyer, he has not spoken to the media or to police. He does not cooperate in the case. And then here is where we talk about the clues or the leads. So Steven actually did say that he did find a letter that was written by Jaliek stating the following: "Dear everybody, sorry about everything. I won't be a bother anymore. Goodbye." And I have like a little bit of a theory that I'm gonna give my input right now, and I do feel like what nobody has asked us before, but what if he was forced to write that? And then another kind of like weird thing in this case is that Steven has stated that he was with Jaliek the rest of the night, which was not true to the following, because when they had the police had seen like his cell phone records, because they did have like a big feeling that the family had something to do with his disappearance. The cell phone records did show that he was not home at around 12 a.m. that morning or that night. Another lead in this case was when a week later after Jaliek went missing, there was a letter that did go to the home of Steven and Jocelyn. It was just like a really weird letter basically stating that Jaliek was still alive, that he was okay, talking about his cat and about his like past. It was a really weird letter, and in my opinion I feel like this family had something to do with his disappearance, and I do feel like they must have done something to hurt him. And the reason why I say this is because like it's just not adding up the things in this case, especially the fact that Steven and eventually Jocelyn later on starts to not cooperate as much in this investigation. And as a parent who's concerned about their child, I would think that you would just be head over heels, you know, crazy trying to find your child and cooperating with the police to find your missing child, but they don't do so. And I feel like this letter that was sent to the family was to throw off this case. Even Steven's mother, Barbara, had a big suspicion about her own son and daughter-in-law being involved in Jaliek's disappearance. I remember even Barbara one day, she even decided to break into Steven's home, where she finds this yellow jacket which they had reported Steven was last wearing before he went missing. And actually, like, I believe it says right here, after his disappearance, like around a year later, they decide to move to another state. And to me, it is really weird because, like I said, I've seen cases before where, like, you know, a child goes missing and the parents and family don't even move away from the house in hopes that one day their child will come home. George Bell was actually the police detective who was working on Jaliek's case, and unfortunately in 2018 he did pass away, and he did have a suspicion that the family had something to do with Jaliek's disappearance. So that's basically all I have for this case. This case was one of those that I really wanted to talk about. I thought it was really important. I just think this is really tragic and really sad because there's just so many cases where kids just get neglected and they don't get the love that they deserve. They're just children. You know, they deserve to be loved and supposed to be happy and supposed to get all the support that they can. I hope you guys enjoyed this week's case. Once again, if you are not subscribed to my channel, go ahead and subscribe right now. I do post crime, basically missing person cases every week on Wednesday.